$10,000. That's what my husband's best friend bet him I'd cry when they ambushed me with divorce papers at Christmas dinner. The red wine hadn't even been poured when Mark slammed the manila folder on the table, right between the honey-glazed ham and my mother's china. 23 family members went silent. Even my 9-year-old stopped unwrapping his present. "Merry Christmas, Brenda," Derek smirked from across the table, his phone already recording. Women are so predictable when they're cornered. I am Brenda Freeman, 38 years old, and this is the story of how two arrogant men learned that silence isn't weakness. It's strategy. If you're watching this, please subscribe and let me know where you are watching from. What they didn't know was that I'd been preparing for this moment for 6 months. From the outside, we had everything. Our 5-bedroom colonial in Bellevue, with its manicured lawn and 3-car garage, screamed success to anyone driving past. 15 years of marriage, 2 beautiful kids, annual ski trips to Aspen. The Freeman family was living the American dream. Mark ran a logistics company with 50 employees, the kind of business that sounds boring at cocktail parties but prints money. Freeman Logistics Solutions. He'd started it with Derek Smith right after college, and by 42, he was clearing 7 figures annually. I was the creative one, the freelance interior designer whose income fluctuated between $3,000 and $8,000 a month, depending on whether Seattle's tech wives were redecorating that season. Derek was more than Mark's CFO. He was the best man at our wedding, godfather to our daughter Emma, and a fixture at every Sunday dinner. Single, charming, and always armed with expensive wine and inappropriate jokes, he'd become the uncle my kids never had. "Aunt Brenda's playing businesswoman again," he'd laugh, watching me sketch designs on my iPad while the men discussed real business. Every Sunday, Mark would join in. "Maybe you should focus on making our home beautiful instead of other people's," he'd say, kissing my forehead like it softened the insult. The family photos lining our hallway showed smiling faces, arms wrapped around each other, the perfect family portrait. But those photographs never tell the whole story, do they? They don't capture the moment after the shutter clicks, when the smiles drop and the arms pull away. They don't show what happens when the camera's off. 6 months before that Christmas dinner, the changes started small. Mark began working late. Nothing unusual for a CEO, except he'd never needed to before. His phone, which used to lie face up on the counter, suddenly required a passcode. His laptop, once shared for family movie nights, now lived in a locked briefcase. "Big expansion coming," he'd say, pouring himself whiskey at 11 p.m. "Derek and I are working on something huge for Q1. The joint checking account started hemorrhaging money. 5,000 here, 10,000 there, always round numbers, always with vague explanations. "Investment opportunities," Mark would mutter when I asked. "Trust your husband, Brenda. You wouldn't understand these complex financial moves anyway." Derek's visits increased from weekly to almost daily. They'd lock themselves in Mark's home office, voices low, emerging hours later with satisfied smiles that never quite reached their eyes. Once I brought them coffee and caught Derek mid-sentence. By December, she won't know what hit her. They stopped talking immediately. Derek's grin widened. "Just discussing a competitor, Bren. Business stuff." The way he said my name made my skin crawl. There was something predatory in it, like a cat playing with a mouse that didn't know it was already caught. Our joint savings dropped from $200,000 to $50,000 in 3 months. When I confronted Mark, he laughed, actually laughed. "It's our money, isn't it? Or did you forget that what's mine is yours?" The emphasis on mine wasn't subtle. That night, I lay awake listening to Mark's snoring, wondering when the man I married had become a stranger. Why did Derek always smirk when he mentioned their Q1 plans? And why did I feel like prey in my own home? The email that changed everything appeared on a Tuesday morning in July. Mark had left his laptop open on the kitchen counter, first time in months, while he showered. I was reaching to close it when the notification popped up. From Derek Smith, subject, project December split, timeline. "Asset redistribution complete. She won't see it coming. Brennan says we're clear for the December trigger. Remember, public humiliation ensures cooperation." My hand froze above the keyboard. Asset redistribution, December trigger. I screenshot the notification before it disappeared. My fingers surprisingly steady. The email had an attachment. Asset redistribution final XLS. I forwarded everything to my personal email, then found myself diving deeper. Their drafts folder was a goldmine of half-finished messages between them. Apparently, they thought saving without sending was safer than actual emails. Wrong. Consulted divorce attorney Brennan, suggested manufacturing cause. 3 shell companies registered in Delaware. Move everything before filing. Minimize her take. Public scene equals emotional breakdown equals better settlement terms. Each word felt like ice in my veins, but my hands didn't shake. They steadied. This was war, and they'd just revealed their battle plans. I heard the shower turn off. Quickly, I marked the emails as unread, closed the laptop, and returned to making breakfast. When Mark emerged, hair still damp, I was humming at the stove. "Smells great, babe," he said, kissing my cheek. The cologne I'd bought him for his birthday mixed with the scent of betrayal. "Just trying to be a good wife," I replied, serving his eggs with a smile that could have frozen hell. He had no idea that while he ate his breakfast, I was already planning his destruction. Rachel Morrison and I hadn't spoken since college, but when you need a shark, you call the ocean's apex predator. She'd graduated summa cum laude from Harvard Law, specialized in high-asset divorces, and according to Seattle Magazine, had never lost a case where financial abuse was involved. "Brenda Freeman," she said when she answered. "I wondered when you'd call." We met at her downtown office that Thursday. 40 floors up, with a view of Elliott Bay, Rachel's corner office screamed success. She looked exactly the same, sharp cheekbones, sharper suits, and eyes that missed nothing. I showed her the emails. She read them twice, fingers drumming on her mahogany desk. "They're not just planning a divorce," she said finally. "This is financial abuse with conspiracy to commit fraud. These Delaware shells, classic asset hiding. But Brenda," she leaned forward, "oh, we need more, much more." "What kind of more?" "Everything. Bank records, property deeds, tax returns. I'm bringing in Tom Bradley, best forensic accountant in the Pacific Northwest. Former IRS investigator. If there's money hidden, he'll find it." "How long do we have?" "Based on this timeline, 6 months. Can you pretend everything's normal for 6 months?" I thought about Mark's condescending kisses, Derek's smirks, the way they both treated me like furniture that occasionally spoke. "I've been pretending for years. What's 6 more months?" Rachel smiled, the kind of smile that probably terrified opposing counsel. "Good. Document everything, record what you legally can. Washington's a one-party consent state. And Brenda?" She squeezed my hand. "They're not just planning financial abuse. I've got your back." For the first time in months, I felt something other than dread. I felt hope and rage. Controlled, calculated rage. Tom Bradley looked like an accountant from Central Casting. Wire-rimmed glasses, receding hairline, and clothes that screamed, "I do math for fun." But when he opened his laptop 3 weeks later, his fingers flew across the keyboard like a concert pianist. "Your husband and Mr. Smith are either very stupid or very arrogant," he said, adjusting his glasses. "They barely tried to hide this." The numbers on his screen made my stomach drop. 3 shell companies, MDS Holdings, Freeman Asset Management, and December LLC. Over 5 months, they'd funneled $2.3 million from the main company through fake invoices and consulting fees. "Look here," Tom pointed to a transaction. "They bought 2 investment properties in Tacoma, 1 in Spokane, all under December LLC. The plan's obvious. Divorce you, declare the main company struggling, keep the real assets hidden." "Is it legal?" "It's fraud, tax evasion, money laundering if we can prove intent." His smile was thin. "We can prove intent." That night, Mark came home whistling. "Great day at the office," he announced, pouring expensive scotch. "Derek and I are really building something special." "That's wonderful, honey," I replied, chopping vegetables with unnecessary force. "You two make such a good team." He wrapped his arms around me from behind, and I forced myself not to stiffen. "Maybe you should focus more on your little drawings and less on my business," he whispered, thinking it sounded affectionate. Derek arrived for dinner an hour later, bearing wine and that insufferable grin. "How's the little designer?" he asked, ruffling my hair like I was a child. "Just playing with my little drawings," I smiled back, serving them steak I'd contemplated poisoning but settled for overcooking. They had no idea their empire was already crumbling. December 24th arrived with fresh snow and fake cheer. I'd been up since 5 a.m. preparing dinner for 25 guests. Both families, plus Derek, because of course Mark insisted his brother join us. "Make sure everything's perfect," Mark said, straightening his tie. "Tonight's important." He had no idea how right he was. While the turkey roasted, I made my own preparations. A tiny voice recorder, no bigger than a USB drive, tucked under the dining table with double-sided tape. Legal in Washington, one-party consent state, Rachel had reminded me 3 times. In the garage freezer, behind the turkey, sat a gift box wrapped in expensive silver paper with a perfect red bow. Inside, copies of every document Tom had found, every email I'd screenshot, every recording I'd legally made. Rachel had prepared it all with a notary's stamp. "Tomorrow's gonna be legendary, bro," I heard Derek tell Mark when they thought I was in the kitchen. 10 grand says she cries within 30 seconds. "You're on," Mark laughed. "Women are so predictable when they're cornered." I smiled, basting the turkey with hands that didn't tremble anymore. They wanted a public spectacle. They'd get one. Emma helped me set the table, arranging the china just so. "Why is Dad being weird?" she asked, perceptive as always at 12. "Adult stuff, sweetie, nothing to worry about." Noah ran through the house with his new remote control car, oblivious at 9 to the tension building like a storm. By 6 p.m., everything was ready. The house smelled like cinnamon and pine. The tree twinkled with lights we'd hung together just last week, back when Mark was still pretending to be a husband. I looked in the mirror, adjusting my red dress. "Smile, Brenda," I told my reflection. "Tomorrow your life changes forever." By 7 p.m., our house buzzed with conversation and clinking glasses. My parents had driven up from Portland, Mark's sister flew in from Denver with her kids, and various aunts, uncles, and cousins filled every corner of our living room. Derek held court by the fireplace, regaling Mark's cousins with stories about their latest business victories. He kept checking his phone, grinning wider each time. At 7:23, I noticed him prop it against a wine bottle, camera facing the dining table. "Everyone, dinner's ready," I called, my voice steadier than my heartbeat. They filed into the dining room, admiring the spread. Mom squeezed my hand. "Beautiful as always, sweetheart." If only she knew this might be our last family dinner in this house. Mark stood at the head of the table, tapping his wine glass. The room quieted. Derek moved closer, his phone now openly recording. "Before we eat," Mark began, his voice carrying that CEO authority he loved so much, "I have an important announcement about our family's future." Emma looked up from her plate, confused. Noah was still playing with his napkin, folding it into shapes. My father frowned, sensing something off. I pressed record on my phone in my pocket, the motion invisible under the table. The tiny device I'd planted earlier would capture everything, but redundancy never hurt. Mark's eyes met mine across the table. There was something cold there, reptilian almost. Had it always been there, hidden behind the mask of marriage? Derek leaned forward, practically salivating. His fingers drummed against the table in anticipation. "What's going on, Mark?" his mother Barbara asked, her voice sharp. She'd always been perceptive. "Just a little Christmas surprise, Mom," he said, reaching for something under his chair. The room held its breath. The manila folder hit the table with a slap that echoed through the silent room. Mark slid it across the polished wood, stopping directly in front of my plate. "I want a divorce," he announced, voice loud enough for everyone to hear. "Sign now, make this easy." 23 faces turned to me. My mother gasped. Emma's fork clattered to her plate. "Daddy?" Noah's voice was small, confused. Derek leaned back in his chair, smirking. "Women are so easy to read," he stage whispered to Mark's cousin. "She's about to cry. 10 grand says within 30 seconds. I picked up the folder, flipped it open. My hands were steady as stone. The terms were insulting. $50,000 cash, no house, no investments, nothing from the company we'd built together. Shared custody, but he'd be the primary parent. "You get the kids on weekends and 50 grand, Mark said, his voice dripping condescension. "That's generous for someone who contributed nothing to our wealth." My father started to stand. "Now wait just a—" "It's okay, Dad," I said calmly, pulling out my own pen from my purse. The expensive Mont Blanc Mark had given me for our 10th anniversary. Ironic. I signed my name slowly, clearly, each letter deliberate. The room was so quiet you could hear the pen scratching paper. "Thank you for making this public, Mark," I said, my voice carrying the kind of calm that comes before hurricanes. "Since we're exchanging gifts," I stood, walked to the kitchen with measured steps. Behind me, Derek cackled. "Told you, running away to cry. Easiest money I ever—" "But first," I called back, returning with the silver-wrapped box from the freezer. "Derek, about that $10,000 bet." The smirk began sliding off his face. I set the gift box on the table with the same deliberate force Mark had used with his folder. The silver paper caught the chandelier light, making it gleam like a weapon. "Since we're being transparent this Christmas," I said, maintaining eye contact with Mark, "I thought you should have this." Derek's phone was still recording. Good, I wanted everything documented. "What is this, Brenda?" Mark's voice had lost some of its swagger. "Open it." He hesitated, then tore into the paper with aggressive pulls. The box beneath was plain white, unremarkable. Inside, neat manila folders lay stacked, each one labeled with sticky notes in my handwriting. Mark pulled out the first folder. Delaware Shell Companies, MDS Holdings, Freeman Asset Management, December LLC. The color drained from his face. "What the hell?" Derek started to stand. "Sit down, Derek," I said, my voice sharp enough to cut glass. "We're just getting started." Mark's hands shook as he opened the folder. Bank statements, property deeds, transaction records. All notarized, all copied, all legal. "How did you—" "The second folder contains email transcripts," I continued, as if discussing a dinner recipe, "including the one where you called me and I quote, 'too stupid to notice missing money.' The third has audio recordings, all legal. Washington's a one-party consent state." Barbara, Mark's mother, reached for one of the folders. Her face went from confusion to fury as she read. "You stole $2.3 million, she said to her son, voice deadly quiet. "But first," I said, pulling out my phone, "let's discuss that bet. Derek, you wagered $10,000 I'd cry within 30 seconds? It's been 2 minutes. I believe you owe Mark some money." "Or maybe," I smiled out, "you should save it for your lawyers." I know this story is intense, and we're just getting to the really good part. If you're finding value in hearing about standing up to betrayal through legal means, please hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. Drop a comment below. Have you ever been underestimated by someone who should have known better? Your engagement helps me share more stories of justice and empowerment. Trust me, what happens next in that dining room will leave you speechless. Let's continue with what else was inside that gift box. Back to that dining room, where 23 people sat frozen like a tableau of shock. I pulled out each piece of evidence with the precision of a surgeon. "Let's see," I said, laying out documents like playing cards. 3 shell companies registered in Delaware, $2.3 million in transferred assets over 5 months, 2 properties in Tacoma, 1 in Spokane, all purchased with money stolen from our joint assets. Derek lunged for the papers. "You can't! This is illegal!" "Actually, it's not," said a familiar voice from the doorway. Rachel Morrison stood there in a pristine black suit, briefcase in hand. She'd let herself in through the side door, exactly as planned. "Mrs. Freeman hired me 6 months ago," Rachel announced to the room. "Everything here was obtained through legal discovery and forensic accounting. Mr. Bradley." Tom Bradley entered behind her, laptop under his arm, portable projector in hand. "Should I set up here?" "Who the hell are these people?" Mark stood, his face purple with rage. "Your worst nightmare," I said calmly. "A divorce attorney who's never lost a financial abuse case, and a forensic accountant who used to work for the IRS. I pulled out the USB drive, one of 12 copies. This contains 47 audio recordings of you two discussing how to, quote, "screw me over in court." Also, Derek, there's a particularly interesting one where you describe bribing city officials for permits. My father-in-law, Robert, a retired federal judge, stood slowly. The disappointment in his eyes as he looked at his son was devastating. "Is this true, Mark?" Mark's mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. Derek was already on his phone, frantically typing. "Oh," I added, pulling out the final folder. "And Merry Christmas. The IRS will find this particularly interesting." Derek grabbed the USB from the table, holding it up triumphantly. "Got it. Now you have nothing." "That's copy 4 of 12, I said, sipping my wine with deliberate calm. "Rachel has 3 in her office safe, Tom has 3, my parents' safety deposit box has 2, and the FBI already has 1. The USB slipped from Derek's fingers, clattering on the floor. "The FBI?" Mark's voice cracked like a teenager's. "Brenda, how could I?" I stood, my voice rising for the first time. "You stole everything we built together. You planned to humiliate me in front of our children. You bet money on my pain." Tom had finished setting up the projector. "May I?" he asked politely. please. The wall lit up with spreadsheets, bank records, transaction histories. Tom clicked through them with practiced efficiency. December 3rd, $100,000 transferred to MDS Holdings for consulting. December 10th, $450,000 to Freeman Asset Management for logistics research. December 15th. Turn it off, Mark shouted. Actually, Barbara said, her voice ice cold. Continue. She turned to me. Brenda, dear, what else should we know? Page 47 shows how they invoiced fake services to extract cash. Page 62 documents the tax evasion, approximately $800,000 over 3 years. Oh, and Derek? I turned to him with a smile that could freeze hell. Remember Jennifer from accounting? His face went white. What about Jennifer? Mark asked, looking between us. Should I tell him, or would you like to? I asked Derek. The room waited. You could hear hearts beating. That's what I thought, I said. Washington is a one-party consent state, Derek. She recorded everything, too. Tom clicked to the next slide. The wall displayed a flowchart that looked like a spiderweb of crime. This visualization shows the money flow, he explained with the enthusiasm of someone who genuinely loved destroying financial criminals. Each line represents a fraudulent transaction. The red ones are tax evasion, the blue ones are money laundering. My mother-in-law, Barbara, put on her reading glasses, studying the projection. That's my signature, she said, pointing to a document. But I never signed this. Forgery, Rachel said simply. Add that to the charges. Emma had started crying quietly. I wanted to comfort her, but this needed to finish. Slide 38, please, I said. The image changed to a video screenshot. Derek in what was clearly a hotel bar, handing an envelope to a man in a city planning department jacket. That's Bill Morrison from Permits, Mark's cousin gasped. Is that a bribe? $15,000 for expedited permits on the Tacoma properties, Tom confirmed. We have the whole video. More gasps. Phones came out around the table. My cousins, Mark's sister, even the teenagers were recording now. You can't record us without permission, Derek shouted at them. Actually, my brother-in-law, who happened to be a civil rights attorney, spoke up. They can. You're in a private home, but you made this a public spectacle. No expectation of privacy. Mark sank into his chair. Brenda, please, let's discuss this privately. Like you discussed our divorce privately? Oh, wait, you announced it in front of our children and parents while your friend filmed it for entertainment. Barbara stood. I've seen enough. Robert, we're leaving. She looked at Mark with disgust. You're no son of mine. Mom, wait. But she was already at my side, pulling me into a hug. This is insane, Derek exploded, pacing now like a caged animal. Mark, tell them this is all lies. Is it? Mark turned on his supposed best friend. Was this all your idea, Derek? The shells, the transfers? Don't you dare pin this on me. You wanted her gone as much as I... Derek stopped, realizing what he'd just admitted. As much as you what? I asked sweetly. Derek's face contorted. You want the truth? Fine. Your husband's been planning this for 2 years. Ever since Jennifer and I... What? Mark roared, jumping to his feet. Jennifer, my secretary, my... The room erupted. Derek had just lit a match in a room full of dynamite. She meant nothing, Derek backpedaled. It was just... She's pregnant, okay? And she's threatening to sue for harassment if I don't pay her off. I used company money to keep her quiet. Mark lunged across the table. Turkey and cranberry sauce went flying as the two men grappled. My father and brother-in-law pulled them apart. You used our money for your affair? Mark screamed. The money we stole for our future? Oh my God, my teenage niece said, her phone still recording. This is better than reality TV. Rachel stepped forward. Gentlemen, you might want to stop talking. Everything you're saying is being recorded and will be used against you. Jennifer's husband knows everything, I added calmly, wiping cranberry sauce off my dress. She came to me last month with recordings of Derek's advances, security footage from the office, and the positive pregnancy test. She's already filed a sexual harassment lawsuit. Derek's legs gave out. He collapsed into his chair. 20 years of friendship, Mark said, voice hollow. 20 years, and you betrayed me too. The doorbell rang at exactly 8:47 p.m. I'd been watching the clock. That would be the police, Rachel announced, checking her phone. Right on time. 2 detectives from the financial crimes unit stood in our doorway, badges visible, faces professional. Behind them, two uniformed officers waited by their squad cars, lights flashing red and blue against the snow. Derek Smith, the lead detective, a woman with steel gray hair, stepped forward and, "I'm Detective Patricia Hayes. We have a warrant for your arrest." "This is insane!" Derek shouted, backing toward the kitchen. "You can't just—" "Tax evasion, money laundering, wire fraud," Detective Hayes listed calmly. "And as of this afternoon, sexual assault charges from Jennifer Matthews. Sir, please turn around." The second detective approached Mark. "Mr. Freeman, we'll need you to come with us for questioning. You're not under arrest at this time, but you cannot leave the state." Emma and Noah were crying now. I knelt beside them. "Go upstairs with Grandma," I whispered to my mother, who quickly ushered them away. Derek was in handcuffs now, his expensive suit wrinkled, his face a mask of rage and fear. "This is your fault," he screamed at me. "You vindictive—" "Sir, you have the right to remain silent," Detective Hayes cut him off. "Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law." As they led Derek past the dining room window, the cousins and relatives pressed against the glass, phones out, recording everything. This would be on social media within minutes. Mark stood frozen, watching his best friend being put into the police car. "The divorce papers," he said numbly. "They're evidence now, aren't they?" "Everything is evidence," Rachel confirmed. "The divorce is the least of your problems now." After the police left and the relatives dispersed in shocked whispers, Barbara stayed behind. We sat in my kitchen, the chaos of the ruined dinner visible through the doorway. "I need to tell you something," she said, pouring herself wine with steady hands. "I knew what Mark was planning." My stomach dropped. "You knew?" 3 months ago, I overheard him on the phone with Derek. They didn't know I was in the house. She pulled out her phone, showing me her banking app. I immediately moved $500,000 into a trust fund for Emma and Noah. It's ironclad. Mark can't touch it. I stared at her, speechless. "There's more." She reached into her purse, pulling out a leather journal worn with age. "This is Mark's father's diary from 1994. He did the same thing to me 30 years ago. Hid assets, planned to leave me with nothing. But I was smarter than he thought." She flipped to a marked page. "I documented everything, just like you did. Got 60% in the divorce and full custody, but I failed my son. I thought I'd raised him better." "Barbara, I had no idea. How could you? I never told anyone, not even Mark. But here's what he doesn't know. I'm a silent partner in Freeman Logistics. I own 30%. Have since the beginning. It was my inheritance money that started that company." My jaw dropped. "Does Mark know?" "No. The partnership is under my maiden name through a trust. Robert helped me structure it." She smiled grimly. "I can call an emergency board meeting, vote him out as CEO." "Why didn't you warn me earlier?" "Because you needed to discover your own strength. And you did. You're stronger than I ever was, Brenda." Tom Bradley called at midnight, his voice electric with discovery. "Brenda, you need to see this. I'm coming over." 20 minutes later, he was at my door with his laptop, Rachel beside him. We sat at the kitchen table, the destroyed Christmas dinner still visible in the next room. "I've been digging deeper into Derek's old emails," Tom explained, fingers flying across the keyboard. "Found a deleted account from 5 years ago. Look at this." The screen showed wire transfer records to a Cayman Islands account. The numbers made my head spin. $4.7 million, Rachel whispered. "Over 5 years. It gets worse," Tom continued. "These transfers coincide with insider information on 3 major contracts. Derek was selling bid information to competitors, then investing the kickbacks based on insider knowledge." "That's SEC territory," Rachel said, already pulling out her phone. "Federal investigation, minimum 10 years. "There's more." Tom pulled up another screen. "Mark's signature is on half of these. Either he knew or Derek forged his signature. Either way, he's finished," I completed. Barbara, who'd been quietly watching, spoke up. "I can access the company's internal audit system. As a silent partner, I have oversight privileges Mark doesn't know about." Within an hour, we'd found 12 more suspicious transactions. Derek hadn't just been stealing from the company. He'd been running a full-scale insider trading operation. This is why he was so confident, I realized. He thought he had enough money hidden away that losing the divorce settlement wouldn't matter. "Except now," Rachel smiled. "It's all evidence. The FBI will freeze every account, trace every dollar. He won't be able to buy a cup of coffee." Tom closed his laptop. By my calculation, Derek Smith is looking at 20 to 30 years. Mark, if he cooperates, maybe 5 to 10. The next morning, Emma and Noah sat across from me at the breakfast table, their untouched cereal growing soggy. The house felt different, lighter somehow, despite everything. "Why did Daddy do that to you?" Emma asked, her 12-year-old eyes far too knowing. In front of everyone? I'd rehearsed this conversation 100 times in my head, but the words still felt inadequate. "Sometimes people change, sweetheart. Or maybe they show who they really were all along. Your father got confused about what matters most." "Is he going to jail?" Noah's voice was small, scared. "Maybe. He made some bad choices with money that wasn't his." "Like stealing?" Noah asked. "Yes, like stealing." Emma's jaw tightened, so much like mine. "Good. He hurt you. He hurt all of us." "No, Mom." I heard what he said. "That you contributed nothing? You're the one who helped me with my science project that won first place. You're the one who drives Noah to hockey at 5 a.m. You designed the pediatric ward at Children's Hospital for free because it was the right thing to do." Tears rolled down my cheeks, the first since this all began. Noah climbed into my lap, even though he was getting too big for it. "Will we be okay without Daddy?" "We'll be more than okay," I promised, holding him tight. "We have Grandma Barbara, Grandpa Robert, and each other. And you know what? Sometimes a smaller, honest family is better than a bigger one built on lies." Emma reached across the table and took my hand. "Mom, I want to be a lawyer like Rachel when I grow up, but one who helps people like us." "That's my girl," I whispered, squeezing back. At 2 a.m., 3 nights after Christmas, I woke to pounding on the front door. Mark stood there, disheveled, reeking of whiskey, his BMW parked crooked in the driveway. "We need to talk," he slurred, pushing past me into the house. I grabbed my phone, starting a recording. "It's 2 a.m., Mark. You're violating the restraining order." "There's no restraining order yet," he said, collapsing onto the couch. "Look, Brenda, I screwed up, but we can fix this." "Fix this? You tried to destroy me." "I'll give you everything. 1 million cash, the house, full custody of the kids." His bloodshot eyes were desperate. "Just drop the criminal charges. Tell them you were mistaken." "You want me to lie to the FBI?" "Not lie, just reconsider. Say you misunderstood the documents. Derek forced me into all of this. He manipulated me." I sat across from him, keeping the coffee table between us. "Derek forced you to steal $2.3 million, to forge documents, to plan my humiliation? You don't understand the pressure I was under. The company was struggling. The company netted $3.8 million last year. I saw the real books, Mark, not the ones you showed the IRS." His face crumpled. "Please, I could go to prison for 10 years. Think of the kids." "I am thinking of them. What lesson would I teach them if I let you buy your way out of this?" "You have 24 hours to decide," he said, standing unsteadily. "After that, I disappear with everything. I have friends in countries without extradition." "Go ahead," I said calmly. "Run. Add fugitive to your resume. But know this, I don't negotiate with criminals, especially ones I used to love." He stumbled out, and I immediately called Rachel. Derek made bail 2 days later, pondering $100,000 posted by his mother, who still believed her son was innocent. Within hours, his counterattack began. My phone buzzed with notifications. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. My face was everywhere, photoshopped onto compromising images with Tom Bradley. The captions were vicious. "Gold digger planned this for months with her lover." "She seduced the accountant to frame her innocent husband," Rachel called immediately. "Don't respond to anything. I'm sending cease and desist letters now." But the damage was spreading. 3 clients canceled their design consultations. The PTA president sent a cold email suggesting I take a break from volunteering. Even the barista at my regular coffee shop gave me a strange look. "Mom, everyone at school is talking about it," Emma said, showing me her phone. The fake photos were circulating among parents. Derek had hired a professional PR firm, the kind that specialized in destroying reputations. They'd created a website, The Truth About Brenda Freeman. It painted me as a calculating woman who'd entrapped 2 successful businessmen. Tom was furious. "I've been married for 20 years. My wife is getting calls asking if I'm having an affair." "This is witness intimidation," Rachel said during our emergency meeting. "And defamation. We can add these to the charges." But Derek wasn't done. He went on a local podcast playing the victim. She's trying to destroy two men who built a company from nothing. She contributed nothing to our success, and now she wants everything. The interviewer, clearly paid off, nodded sympathetically. What about the evidence she claims to have? Fabricated, Derek said smoothly. She had 6 months to doctor documents, take things out of context. This is what happens when you trust the wrong woman. My phone rang. Unknown number. You can stop this, Derek's voice said, or I can make it worse. While Derek played victim in the media, Freeman Logistics was hemorrhaging from within. The arrest video had gone viral among industry circles, and the damage was swift and brutal. Barbara called me with hourly updates. 15 employees resigned this morning, she riposted. The senior development team just walked out together. By noon, 3 major clients had terminated their contracts, citing reputational concerns. The stock price plummeted 60% in 2 days. Mark's carefully built empire was crumbling faster than a sandcastle at high tide. Emergency board meeting in 1 hour, Barbara announced. I'm calling it as a major shareholder. Mark didn't even show up. His lawyer appeared instead, trying to argue for temporary leadership while Mark resolved personal matters. Motion to remove Mark Freeman as CEO, Barbara said calmly. All in favor? Every hand went up. The CFO who'd replaced Derek, brought in for emergency audit, discovered the rot went deeper. There's another $2 million missing, he announced to the board. Hidden in expense accounts. Fake vendor payments. This company is 3 months from bankruptcy if we don't act now. That evening, the local news ran the story. Freeman Logistics, from success story to cautionary tale. They interviewed former employees who described a toxic culture where Derek and Mark ruled through fear and intimidation. They always talked about women like they were disposable, one brave assistant said on camera. Mrs. Freeman was lovely. She'd bring us cookies during tax season, remember our birthdays. They'd mock her for it. Mark's LinkedIn profile disappeared. His country club membership was revoked. The business community that had once celebrated him now treated him like he was radioactive. Your husband built a house of cards, Barbara told me that night. And you lit the match? I've never been prouder. Jennifer Matthews arrived at my door on a rainy Tuesday, 4 months pregnant and carrying a box of evidence that would bury Derek Smith completely. I'm sorry I didn't come forward sooner, she said, settling into my kitchen chair. I was terrified. Jennifer was 28, married, with a 2-year-old at home. She'd been Mark's secretary for 3 years, competent and quiet, the kind of employee you trust with everything. Derek started small, she explained, comments about my appearance, accidentally brushing against me. Then one night, he cornered me in the supply closet. She pulled out her phone, showing me video from the office security camera. Derek pressing her against the wall, her clearly saying no, pushing him away. I started recording everything after that. She opened the box, USB drives, printed emails, photographs. Every inappropriate message, every threat. When I told him I was pregnant, he said he'd destroy my marriage if I didn't get rid of it. Is the baby my husband's? We'd been trying for 2 years, but Derek assumed. She touched her stomach protectively. He offered me $50,000 to disappear. When I refused, he said he'd tell everyone I seduced him. Jennifer, this is sexual assault. Criminal harassment. I know. My husband knows everything. He's supportive. We're ready to fight. She pulled out another folder. But there's more. Derek wasn't just harassing me. 3 other women from the company have reached out since his arrest. We're all willing to testify. They destroyed my life, she said, tears finally falling. Made me feel worthless. But seeing you fight back, you gave us courage. Let's bury them together, I said, taking her hand. She smiled through her tears. With pleasure. Rachel's conference room looked like a war room. Whiteboards covered with timelines, boxes of evidence stacked to the ceiling, 3 paralegals working 18-hour days. We had 2 weeks until the divorce hearing, which would now coincide with the criminal proceedings. We're not just winning, Rachel said, arranging documents like a general planning an invasion. We're going to annihilate them. The evidence was overwhelming, 147 pages of financial documents, 23 witnesses ready to testify, 4 women filing harassment charges against Derek, and the SEC preparing their own federal case. Practice your testimony again, Rachel commanded. I stood at the mock witness stand they'd set up. My name is Brenda Freeman. On December 24th, slower, let every word land. We practiced for hours: how to sit, where to look, when to pause for effect. Tom drilled me on financial details until I could recite them in my sleep. The media will be there, Rachel warned. Court TV wants to broadcast it. This is bigger than just your divorce now. It's about corporate corruption, sexual harassment, financial abuse. You've become a symbol. My phone buzzed constantly with messages of support. 6 women in similar situations had reached out, sharing their stories, asking for advice. A Facebook group called Support Brenda Freeman had 10,000 members. "You're ready," Rachel finally declared at 2 a.m. When we walk into that courtroom, we end them. Barbara arrived with coffee and sandwiches. The board voted to cooperate fully with the investigation. We're providing everything: emails, security footage, financial records going back 10 years. Mark knows he's finished, she added. His lawyer called, begging for a plea deal. No deals, I said firmly. They wanted public humiliation. They're going to get it. January 15th, 11 p.m. Tomorrow would change everything. My phone had logged over 200 messages of support, women from across the country sharing similar stories, thanking me for standing up, promising to watch the live stream. The story had gone national. The Christmas dinner divorce was trending on social media. Emma sat with me on the couch, my warrior daughter who'd grown up too fast these past weeks. "Mom, you're my hero," she said simply. Noah was asleep upstairs, his hockey gear ready for practice. Life went on, even in chaos. I couldn't sleep. Instead, I walked through the house, touching memories. Our wedding photo. I'd already taken it down. The office where Mark had plotted my destruction, soon to be my art studio. The dining room table where everything exploded. We'd eat there tomorrow, reclaiming the space. At 3 a.m., my phone buzzed. Unknown number. Drop everything or lose everything. I screenshot it, forwarded to Rachel, and deleted it. Empty threats from desperate men. At 4 a.m., I stood in my closet, selecting my armor, the black Chanel suit I'd bought myself after landing the hospital design project. The Louboutin heels, Mark said, were too expensive for someone who doesn't earn real money. Pearl earrings from Barbara. For strength, she'd said. At 5 a.m., I was ready. Hair perfect, makeup flawless, evidence organized in my briefcase. I looked in the mirror and saw someone I hadn't seen in years. Myself, undiminished, unafraid. Tomorrow, Justice wears designer clothes and 4-inch heels, I told my reflection. The sun was rising, painting the Seattle sky pink and gold. Somewhere across town, Mark and Derek were probably awake too, dreading what was coming. Good. We're about to enter that courtroom where everything comes to a head. If this story of legal justice is resonating with you, please share it with someone who needs to hear that patience and preparation can defeat arrogance. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button. Your support helps more than you know. What would you have done in my position? Let me know in the comments below. I love reading your thoughts and experiences. Now, let's see how justice was served in that packed courtroom. King County Superior Court, Room 401, January 16th, 9 a.m. The courtroom was packed beyond capacity. Media filled the back rows, sketch artists positioned in corners, and a court TV camera fixed on the judge's bench. The hallway outside buzzed with reporters and supporters wearing Team Brenda t-shirts someone had made. Judge Patricia Hoffman entered, 60-something, silver-haired, with a reputation for zero tolerance of financial manipulation. Perfect. Mark sat at the defendant's table with 3 lawyers in $1,000 suits. His face was gaunt, aged 10 years and 3 weeks. Derek was at a separate table with 2 attorneys, his usual swagger replaced by visible panic. I sat with Rachel and Tom, Barbara behind us in the gallery's front row. Jennifer and the other women were in the witness room ready to testify. This is the matter of Freeman versus Freeman with connected criminal proceedings against Mark Freeman and Derek Smith, Judge Hoffman announced. I've reviewed the preliminary filings. I must say, in 30 years on the bench, I've rarely seen such extensive documentation. Rachel stood. Your Honor, this isn't just a divorce. It's a criminal conspiracy involving fraud, theft, forgery, and systematic financial abuse. We have evidence of— Objection, Mark's lawyer interrupted. These are allegations. Sit down, counselor, Judge Hoffman said coldly. I've seen the evidence. Mrs. Morrison, proceed. Rachel smiled, the kind that made opposing counsel sweat. Your Honor, we'd like to begin with a timeline presentation. Ms. Bradley? Tom wheeled in a projector. The first slide appeared on the screen. The systematic destruction of Brenda Freeman, a conspiracy in documents. Mark slumped in his chair. Derek was already whispering frantically to his lawyer. Your Honor, Rachel said, this isn't just about money. It's about two men who thought they could destroy a woman for sport. Rachel clicked the remote. The screen filled with evidence, emails, bank statements, property deeds, each document stamped with authentication codes. Exhibit A through F, she announced. 3 shell companies created specifically to hide marital assets. $2.3 million transferred over 5 months. Click. Exhibit G. Audio recording from December 1st, Mr. Smith stating, quote, 10,000 says she cries within 30 seconds. Women are so predictable. The courtroom stirred. Several people gasped. Click. Exhibit H video from the Christmas dinner showing defendants serving divorce papers in front of minor children while recording for entertainment. On screen, the video played. You could hear Noah crying, see Emma's shocked face. Judge Hoffman's expression hardened. Exhibit J through M, forged signatures on loan documents. Mrs. Freeman never signed these. Tom stood, pointer in hand. Your Honor, forensic analysis confirms the signature variations. Additionally, Mrs. Freeman was in Portland with her parents on 2 of these dates, verified by credit card records and hotel receipts. Exhibit N, Rachel continued. Mr. Smith's Cayman Islands account, $4.7 million in deposits coinciding with insider trading activities. Derek's lawyer objected. Relevance to the divorce? The money was stolen from the marital estate, Rachel replied smoothly. Every dollar impacts the settlement. Judge Hoffman leaned forward. Continue. The final slide made everyone lean forward. Exhibit 74, Jennifer Matthews' testimony, corroborated by security footage regarding sexual assault and use of company funds as hush money. The screen showed Derek cornering Jennifer, her pushing him away, clearly saying, stop. Your Honor, Rachel said, we have 147 pages of evidence, 23 witnesses, and multiple federal agencies investigating. These men didn't just plan a divorce. They orchestrated financial terrorism. Mark's lawyer stood. We request a recess. Denied, Judge Hoffman said. Continue, Mrs. Morrison. I'd like to call Mark Freeman to the stand, Rachel announced. Mark shuffled forward like a man heading to execution. His hands shook as he took the oath. Mr. Freeman, Rachel began, did you or did you not create 3 shell companies to hide assets from your wife? On advice of counsel, I plead the 5th. Did you forge your wife's signature on loan documents? 5th. Did you bet money on your wife's emotional distress? Silence. Then breaking. It was Derek's idea. All of it. He said she was too stupid to notice that women like her were easy marks. Liar! Derek erupted, jumping to his feet. You wanted her gone. You said she was dead weight. The courtroom exploded. Derek lunged toward Mark, bailiffs intervening. The 2 men screamed at each other, 20 years of friendship detonating in seconds. You slept with Jennifer, Mark screamed. Used our money to cover it up. You were stealing before I ever touched her, Judge Hoffman's gavel thundered. Order! Bailiffs, restrain both defendants. But Mark wasn't done. Tears streaming, he turned to me. I'm sorry, Brenda. I have a problem. Cocaine. Derek got me hooked. I wasn't thinking clearly. Stop talking, his lawyer begged. I forged everything, the signatures, the companies. Derek showed me how, but I did it. I just wanted to be free. Free from what? Rachel asked quietly. Mark's face crumpled completely. From feeling inferior. She was always better than me, kinder, smarter. Everyone loved her more, even my own mother. Barbara stood in the gallery. You're right about that, she said loudly. Judge Hoffman had seen enough. I'm calling a 15-minute recess. Defendants will remain in custody of the bailiffs. Judge Hoffman returned with a face carved from granite. The courtroom fell silent. In 30 years on this bench, I have rarely witnessed such calculated cruelty and comprehensive financial malfeasance, she began. The evidence presented shows not just marital asset dissipation, but criminal conspiracy, fraud, forgery, and systematic abuse. She looked directly at Mark and Derek. You gentlemen conspired to humiliate and financially destroy Mrs. Freeman, wagering money on her emotional pain while her children watched. You stole millions, forged documents, and committed federal crimes. Therefore, I rule as follows. First, immediate asset freeze on all accounts connected to both defendants. The U.S. Marshals will execute this within the hour. Second, the divorce is granted. Mrs. Freeman receives the family home, all vehicles, and 75% of verified marital assets, totaling approximately $2.3 million recovered from the shell companies. Third, Mrs. Freeman is awarded sole legal and physical custody of the minor children. Mr. Freeman will have supervised visitation only, pending completion of drug rehabilitation. Fourth, I'm referring this entire matter to the FBI and SEC for federal prosecution. Bailiffs Mr. Smith is to be remanded into custody immediately for violation of bail conditions. Derek's face went white as handcuffs clicked around his wrists. Fifth, Mr. Freeman, your passport is surrendered. You may not leave the state pending federal charges. She turned to me. Mrs. Freeman, the court recognizes the extraordinary courage and preparation you've shown. The evidence you've provided will likely result in significant federal sentences for both defendants. Her gavel came down with finality. This court is adjourned. The courtroom erupted. Reporters rushed forward. Barbara hugged me tight. Rachel and Tom high-fived. In the chaos, I heard Mark whisper, "What have I done?" Everything, Mark. You did everything wrong. The consequences were swift and merciless. Within minutes of Judge Hoffman's ruling, Derek was in handcuffs, being led out the courthouse's back entrance. Someone had alerted the media. Photographers caught every humiliating second of his perp walk. By noon, the image was everywhere. Logistics executive arrested in million-dollar fraud scheme. Mark's passport was confiscated on the courthouse steps. Federal agents served him with papers. He was now officially under investigation for wire fraud, tax evasion, and conspiracy. His BMW was towed from the parking lot while he watched, part of the asset freeze. Freeman Logistics filed for bankruptcy within 48 hours. The board couldn't salvage the reputation damage. 50 people lost their jobs because of two men's greed. Sad. The video of the courtroom confrontation went viral. 3.4 million views in 24 hours. Christmas dinner divorce trended globally. Someone created a remix of Derek screaming, "You wanted her gone," set to techno music. The internet, savage as always, had chosen its villain. My phone exploded with messages. Publishers wanted book deals. Netflix called about documentary rights. Dr. Phil's producers left 3 voicemails. We're not doing any of that, I told Rachel. This isn't entertainment, it's justice. But the ripples kept spreading. The FBI announced a formal investigation. The IRS opened their own case. The SEC issued subpoenas. What started as a divorce had become a federal case study in corporate corruption. That night, Emma showed me her phone. Someone at school had made a TikTok. When your mom becomes a legend for destroying your criminal dad. It had 100,000 likes. Are you okay with all this? I asked her. Mom, she said seriously, you showed every woman in America that we don't have to take their crap. Yeah, I'm okay with it. April 16th, 3 months since the courtroom showdown. Derek Smith got 8 years federal prison, no possibility of parole for 5. The judge called his crimes a grotesque abuse of power and trust. He'd tried to flip on Mark for a reduced sentence, but Jennifer's testimony sealed his fate. Sexual assault, wire fraud, tax evasion, insider trading. The charges stacked like dominoes. Mark took a plea deal. 3 years plus $500,000 in fines and mandatory rehab. His lawyer argued the cocaine addiction as a mitigating factor. The federal prosecutor laughed. Apparently stealing millions while high doesn't earn sympathy points. Meanwhile, I was rebuilding. Freeman Designs launched with 12 employees, all women who'd left Freeman Logistics in solidarity. Our first client, the Seattle Children's Hospital expansion, a $400,000 contract. We'd won it on merit, but the publicity didn't hurt. Barbara invested as a silent partner, bringing her business acumen and connections. Let's build something worth being proud of, she said, cutting the ribbon at our downtown office. The kids were thriving in therapy. Emma had started a blog about children's rights in divorce proceedings. Noah's hockey team made it to state championships. He scored the winning goal wearing the new gear I'd bought with my own money. The universe has a sense of humor, Tom Bradley told me over coffee. He'd started his own forensic accounting firm, specializing in financial abuse cases. Derek's in a cell with a guy who lost his house in the 2008 crisis. Apparently, they don't get along. Jennifer won her lawsuit, $1.2 million settlement from what remained of Freeman Logistics insurance. She sent me a photo from her baby shower, glowing and free. Thank you, her card read, for showing me that silence isn't safety, it's surrender. They started reaching out the day after the trial. Women from across the country, trapped in similar situations, seeing hope in my story. Sarah from Texas, whose husband hid oil field investments. Monica from New York, discovering her spouse's art fraud. Chen from California. Her tech executive husband had created an entire shadow company, each story unique, yet eerily similar. Your evidence list saved me, Sarah wrote. I started documenting everything, found $3 million he'd hidden. We started meeting monthly via Zoom, then in person. The Freeman Foundation. Not my choice of name, but it stuck. 30 women gathering in my living room, sharing resources, strategies, lawyers' names. Rachel attended every meeting pro bono, teaching them their rights. One-party consent states, ladies. Record everything legally, document with timestamps, never confront without backup evidence. 3 women had already won their cases using our template. Monica's husband got 5 years for tax fraud. Chen's ex was under SEC investigation. Sarah recovered her hidden millions and bought the ranch her husband had tried to steal. You gave us permission to fight back, Monica said at our last meeting, to stop accepting crumbs from men who promised us kingdoms. The group grew, 50 members, then 100. We created a private website with resources, legal documents, recommended lawyers, therapists who specialized in financial abuse trauma. Everything I wished I'd had 6 months earlier. Jennifer became our youngest board member. If we can save even one woman from what we experienced, it's worth it. Barbara funded it all quietly. I couldn't save myself 30 years ago, she said, but we can save them now. The revolution wasn't loud or violent. It was women sharing Google Docs, WhatsApp messages at midnight, and the radical act of refusing to be silent. 6 months post-divorce, I went on my first date. A Dr. Barber knew, kind eyes, actually listened when I talked. But when he casually mentioned that career women sometimes neglect family, I stood up mid-dinner. Thank you for showing me who you are early, I said, leaving $40 on the table. I don't explain my worth anymore. That became my new normal. Clear boundaries, non-negotiable standards. Yes, I was dating again, but with eyes wide open. Joint financial accounts. Both names on everything. Dismissive comments, immediate conversation, or immediate exit. Red flags, no longer colorblind to them. Emma watched me navigate this new world. You're different now, Mom. Stronger. Not stronger. I corrected, just done pretending to be weaker. I taught both kids financial literacy, bank accounts, credit scores, investment basics. Emma could read a financial statement better than some adults. Noah understood compound interest at 9. Never depend entirely on someone else for money, I told them. Love freely, but keep your own parachute. I hired a financial advisor, ran monthly audits on all accounts. Trust but verify became my mantra. The design business flourished. Turns out, women wanted to hire a designer who understood that homes could be battlegrounds or sanctuaries. I learned that silence in the face of disrespect is compliance, I told the Freeman Foundation at our 6-month anniversary. Every time we ignore a red flag, we paint it white. The old Brenda would have forgiven Mark immediately, taken whatever was offered, avoided conflict. The new Brenda had a lawyer on retainer, security cameras with cloud backup, and passwords Mark could never guess. Not paranoid, prepared. There's a difference. Fool me once, I told my reflection, applying lipstick before another client meeting. Never again. Visiting day at Monroe Correctional Complex came 8 months after sentencing. Mark had requested to see me through his lawyer. The kids wanted to see their father, and the therapist agreed it might provide closure. He looked like he'd aged a decade. Gray streaked his hair, orange jumpsuit hanging loose on his diminished frame. The arrogance had been beaten out of him, literally, according to his lawyer. Apparently, inmates don't appreciate men who steal from their families. Brenda, he said, voice cracking. Thank you for coming. The kids wanted to see you. 5 minutes. Then they come in. I'm sorry. The words tumbled out. I was sick. The cocaine, the pressure, Derek's influence. Stop, I interrupted. Own it. All of it. He nodded, defeated. You're right. I destroyed everything. I see that now. Group therapy here is enlightening. Are you really in recovery? 90 days clean. I'm also in financial crimes counseling. Did you know half the guys here are in for similar things? Hiding money from wives, fraud, embezzlement. It's like an epidemic. It's called entitlement, Mark. I know that now. He looked at his hands. I lost everything that mattered for money that didn't. The kids. Emma wants to be a lawyer. Noah's hockey team won state. They're in therapy, working through what you did to them. Can they ever forgive me? That's their choice. You traumatized them on Christmas, Mark, in front of everyone they loved. I know. I'm hoping When I get out, maybe supervised visits? We'll see. Depends on your behavior. The therapist will decide. He nodded, accepting. You look good, Brenda. Happy, successful. I am. Without you. The guard signaled time. As the kids entered, I watched Mark's face crumble with love and regret. Maybe, someday, he'd earn forgiveness. But not today. A year after that Christmas dinner, I stood in my new office looking out at Elliott Bay. The gift box, that silver-wrapped bomb that changed everything, sat on my bookshelf, now holding business cards for Freeman Designs. The journey from humiliation to triumph hadn't been easy. There were nights I'd cried into my pillow, mornings I couldn't get out of bed, moments I'd wondered if fighting back was worth it. But standing here, CEO of my own company, children thriving, freedom earned through fire, I knew the answer. Never underestimate the power of a quiet woman. We're not plotting your destruction. We're documenting it. Every dismissive comment, every financial manipulation, every moment you think we're too stupid to notice, we're taking notes. To the women watching this, living with their own Marks and Derricks, document everything. Screenshot emails, record conversations where legal, keep copies in multiple locations. Find your Rachel, your Tom, your Barbara. You need allies who believe in justice, not just sympathy. Don't wait for the perfect moment to leave. Create it. Build your case like you're going to war, because you are. The war for your financial freedom, your children's future, your right to exist without being diminished. They bet I'd break. Instead, I broke them. Legally, publicly, completely. Not through revenge, but through truth. The truth, properly documented and presented in court, is the most powerful weapon we have. Your worth isn't determined by someone else's inability to see it. Your strength isn't measured by how much you can endure, but by knowing when to say enough. That Christmas, they thought they were giving me divorce papers. Instead, they gave me freedom, and I gave them exactly what they deserved: consequences. The gift that keeps on giving. Thank you for staying with me through this journey from betrayal to triumph. If this story resonated with you, please subscribe and share it with someone who needs to know they're stronger than they think. Comment below with your thoughts. Have you ever turned the tables on someone who underestimated you? Your stories inspire me to keep sharing. Check out my next video about a woman who discovered her mother-in-law's plot at her own wedding reception. Remember, document everything, trust your instincts, and never let anyone dim your light. You are not alone. You are not powerless. You are enough.